Hey, friends, welcome to another Blazor Power Hour. We're going to be working on our solar power project more today. We've got a Blazor app that we're connecting to Lance's solar power infrastructure at his home. We've got a server, and it's an MQTT server that is coming off of his hardware, reading all of the bits and data out of the solar panels, and we're going to be displaying that in a nice user interface. And we left off last week with an app that was set up and not quite connected to the live server yet. So we'll go ahead and get that pulled back up. Let me share my screen, guys. I've got Visual Studio 2022 preview here. And I noticed that there was an update pending today. And one thing that I learned the hard way too many times is to not hit that update button before I live stream. So we are going to go along with the current version that I have that worked last week. A couple folks in the audience. Hello, Joe of Security. Is that what that is? Joe Sec. And Janescu, welcome.
Janescu has a great suggestion. Maybe V2, we connect the portal to the power glove.
I keep threatening to find one of these, but they've gotten to be quite the collector's commodity and hard to find and expensive. I remember I used to see them at like garage sales and flea markets and stuff, and I should have totally snagged one, even if it was in like disrepair, just because of the nostalgia of it. And now I guess they're pretty hard to come by.
What is a power glove?
So we got to pull it up. So back in the Nintendo
I just
days,
felt so old.
right? Yeah. We'll just skip
It can't
over
be that
that
much older
part.
than me. I just don't know. I had a Nintendo.
Makes me feel so old anyway.
Yeah. Have you ever had a Nintendo,
I was
Justin?
thinking
Like
of
the
like
original one?
Thanos' glove. I was like, what? Yeah, I had an original NES. Yeah.
There was
Had
a
Duck
couple
Hunt.
games. Yeah, just like the old one that you have to blow in the cartridge in 5 times before Zelda starts working.
Mm-hmm.
The Power Glove was kind of exclusive to I don't exactly remember how many games, but there was a couple that instead of the controller, there was a controller on your arm, and then pull up a picture of it, and then you slide your hand into the glove, and it would
Ooh,
recognize your hands doing different. There you go. That
that
was
looks
basically me.
that looks awesome. Shades, slick back hair. I can see it.
Yeah.
And of course, like any peripheral that did not ship with the primary tech, the console, it failed miserably because it was barely supported by any game. And if it was supported, it was like, well, you can use it, but you still have to use the D-pad and the buttons, and you can't really
Yeah.
interact with the glove at all. Um,
And I don't even remember the games I used it for. I just remember it was difficult to use.
I think Punch Out was one of the compatible ones, and then it had its own like game where you like threw a ball at the screen, like a breakout or something that came with it, and then that was about it. That was the end of it.
Yeah.
The rest of it was like pressing buttons on the D-pad. And I heard Punch Out didn't work so well either. It was kind of like awkward. This is the first generation of like haptic technology, and I mean the light gun was like a big deal. That worked well, but
Yeah,
this
Duck
power
Hunt,
Yeah.
glove
that was
didn't.
amazing. Yeah.
So yeah,
Awesome.
it's nostalgic more than anything.
Well, it looks really cool.
Yeah, us old timers that remember the Power Glove, I tried to mention this whole idea in a tweet the other day because the Apple Vision Pro, some company came out with third-party controllers for it. I'm like, that's all fine and dandy, but it's not included out of the box, so developers aren't going to write software for it. I mean, like Power Glove, the Power Pad, the Balance Board, all these weird peripherals that Nintendo's come out with over the years, plus a million other ones, the Connect. doesn't have to be Nintendo. It's like those things always fail when they don't ship out of the box. And of course, the Apple fanboys are like, "Oh, but it's Apple. It's going to be huge." It's like, man, it's not. It's
Then
not for the
the
5 people
Connect's
that have
shipped out of the box though. Like if you got that package, right?
it shipped out of the
You could
box,
get a
but it
bundle.
wasn't. But it was not the only bundle. It wasn't the
Yeah,
default bundle. If
yeah.
it's not there by default, developers don't know that they can't guarantee the device is going to be there, and you've just fragmented the ecosystem. And if you're going to invest money in developing software, you're going to go for the biggest piece of the pie, right? You're not going to go for the 5 people that bought this one-off thing that may or may not be there. So good luck to the folks that made those controllers for the Apple Vision Pro, but it's probably not going to happen.
I mean, the Connect probably lasted the longest out of all of this kind of category of things. And
Yeah.
I used it
Yeah.
mostly as voice control, right? I could walk in the room and say Xbox on and then Xbox off as I left.
It
But
was
for
a
actual
great,
games,
yeah. For the commands and stuff, it was great.
yeah,
But like they didn't have a lot of games that went with it. They had a decent amount, I would say. They had a pretty good amount of games that were compatible with it, like the dance stuff, and a lot of it was dancing related. But at least they had some games, unlike the stuff in the 80s and 90s that just didn't really work out at all. All right, back on topic, I guess.
yeah,
Solar power. Solar power. Speaking of add-on peripherals, solar power panels. You've got some of those, Lance, and we've got a project that will connect to those today. We set up the infrastructure for making the connection last week. We ended at our user secrets file here with no values entered in them yet. But what we're going to do is put some values in here, which will then connect to this MQTT service and allow it to make a connection with the server that is using an MQTT. It's an MQTT server, but it's using a sockets protocol to get some data from the MQTT server, and it's subscribing like with a pub sub type pattern to some topics that are being published across the channels on the MQTT side, and then we'll be able to display some of this info in Blazor. Did I sum that up pretty good?
yeah.
Anything you guys want to add?
And that hashtag is like an asterisk. It's a wild card. So depending on what you're building, you might only want to subscribe to one or two topics, but for the purposes of our demo, we want to listen to all the topics and then filter from there, make decisions later. So,
We're going to drink from the fire hose. All right.
yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the server connection. You have something that is like a port that we can hit publicly, and it's not going to like crash your server or anything like that.
Yeah. So basically, most people have their MQTT broker on an IP address, right? So it's 192 dot whatever. In my case, we're going to be doing this publicly. All three of us are in different locations, and this might be a web app that I would use on my phone while I'm out. Need some way to expose that to the public internet in a safe way. One way you can do it is port forwarding. So in your router, you would say, okay, any request to port 1883, forward that over to this internal IP address at port 1883. And instead of giving everyone my IP address, I just created a temporary domain name. So I own the domain Lance.Boston. And if you own a domain name, you can create unlimited subdomains on that domain name. So I created a subdomain solar. So it's solar Lance.Boston. And that what that will do is it goes to the current external IP address of the house. And that changes all the time, right? If you don't have a static IP or a business internet connection with, more expensive static IP assignments, your IP address for your house typically changes every month or two, depending on where you live and your ISP. So I have a little thing called dynamic DNS. So every time that public IP address changes, it updates the IP address behind this domain. So in a nutshell, it's just a safe way for us to publicly stream this. And after the series is down, I'll take that offline. You know what I mean? But it's a way for me to say, here's my public server without someone going to try to kill it. And I can't change the IP address, but I can change the domain name. Worst case scenario. Yep.
Nice. Yeah,
And
the easy way, like you've taken kind of a more concrete way. If you want to do something similar to this with a little less setup involved, you can use the new feature in Visual Studio. If it's a .NET project anyway, you can use the dev tunnels feature, which is really nice. I don't know if you've checked that out before, but dev tunnels is essentially a tunnel that runs through Azure that you can set up, and it's a couple mouse clicks, and you can actually publish your server or app out with a secure URL, and it's nice for like debugging from like a mobile device or something like that if you want to test your application out on something that's not connected to your network.
yeah, that's a really cool feature, I think. And behind the scenes, it's kind of complicated. You have a reverse proxy, you have instant DNS set up, and then you have a socket between your local machine and the cloud, and a one-click push. I remember when they first did that. I know I was considering getting rid of all my reverse proxies and trying to use that, but this is more like it's intended for what you said, where it's, I want to test it while debugging from my phone. Perfect
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah, you've got more control over what you're doing, and it's a little more long term as far as the lifetime of the scope of the the domain name and stuff. Where dev tunnels is like very short, and it's only running as long as your app is running, that sort of thing. But
Yeah.
it's a nice feature if you guys want to try that out at home. It's really simple to set up. It's in your little HTTP menu here. And you could just go right in and do dev tunnels. Right now, I don't have an active one, but you basically click on that and walk through the 3 steps that it takes to set it up, and you're live with a URL anybody can hit from anywhere. It's really neat. Okay, so we're in secrets.json. I've just entered in our host name and the port. That is going to feed into this I configuration here, which is part of ASP.NET Core. So this is built into dependency injection in ASP.NET Core. The setup routine or startup routine in ASP.NET Core will grab values out of all of the possibilities of configuration. There are many. There's app settings.json, user secrets.json, a couple other places, environment variables, etc. It will scan all of those locations, resolve any settings that it finds, and then let's see if I can remember how to do this. There we go. Hey, you can make arrows. And then it will drop it into this instance of iConfiguration and inject it into our service. And then we can go into the configuration and reach in and pull out those values. So hopefully it will work and read user secrets here, which I believe it will. If it doesn't, we'll hit this exception and it will let us know that it's not set up. That's one of many reasons I like this null. What is this one? The null assignment operator that, or is it the null coalescing operator? I always forget which one's which.
I
But
think
anyway,
that
if
one
it's
is the coalescing, yeah.
yeah, if it's
And
null,
tell
it
us
will
it's
then do the throw here of an invalid exception. That will let us know right away that this isn't working, rather than having to put like a breakpoint on it and make sure that values are coming out. So we've got that set up, and then in our home.razor, we are calling setup MQTT, and then we're subscribing to the messages coming out. So we're taking the service here and we're going to set up, which is going to call create MQTT client. And that's where it's going to pass in our values, right? And set up a message delegate, which we passed in here. So that message delegate gets passed in, it gets added to the service during setup, and then we'll have to do something here with the data once once those messages get published. Am I getting that right, Lance?
Yeah, matter of fact, you can probably drop a breakpoint on 17.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't
Or
think there's anything really to. Let's do a little. Let's just put something in here. Let's call string message. Little nod to JavaScript that we're not using.
yeah.
And
then
then
the args dot
oh, okay, yeah, we could do that. Args
yeah,
dot.
the application message and dot topic. Yep. So that
And
the pub sub thing, right? So
Mhm.
when we first signed up, we subscribed to everything that's Solar Assistant / wildcard. So this will fire whenever there's any subject that matches, any topic that matches Solar Assistant /. So we'll probably get that hit a handful of times, 10 or 12 in that first message. But we could explore the rest of the args and see the data that comes in with it, as well as the topic name. And you can just F10, let it loop again and see a different topic. F10, loop again and see a different topic.
So we've got we're not awaiting anything in here. Is there going to be something that gets awaited in here?
Yeah, we're definitely going to have some sort of UI and work done
Okay.
there. Charting will be done in there. There'll be a few things that we'll probably need to wait.
Is it a method?
I think
We could
it's
just throw.
return
Oh,
task.
it's a property. So
Get rid
just
of async for
temporarily,
now.
we'll go ahead and
Yeah.
just leave it like that, just to make sure it doesn't like lock up any threads or anything like that.
Yeah.
And we'll change that later. All right, so let's go ahead and run this. And I have a feeling that
We lost the breakpoint.
Oh, we lost the
Yeah,
breakpoint.
yep.
Let's see, I could probably still get it on there. I have a feeling we're not going to see anything in the UI. I will explain why in a minute. Let's get this up and running. And we've got Hello World. Was it on the home page there?
I think the
Yeah.
breakpoint
Yeah, we
is
got the
already
breakpoint.
set.
So
Yep.
we did hit the breakpoint. So we can come in and we'll see. We do have a message from our server, which
And
is
this is serial number. So remember how I was saying that we have an inverter? The inverter is the box that takes the juice from the solar panels, connects to the battery, and connects to the house and the grid. 4 different things. So you can think of PV as photovoltaic. That's your solar panel. Go ahead and F10 to the next one and watch. Can we watch it in real time? Change the text visualizer. Or just actually run with
yep,
the breakpoint
it's
again. Yep. So now we're looking at the charge voltage, how well the battery is charging. Then if we have 5 again, we'll see the next topic. It comes in a batch of about 10 or 12 different topics. There's the battery float charge voltage right now, and this is all real data coming from the solar panel. So look at that, it's working on our first attempt. Charger source priority, that's an important one that we'll probably want to show in the UI later.
You might make the assumption that when this is done, the last message that we pulled out of here is going to be displayed. I never wrote it out to the screen. That's one thing that would probably help.
Well, I mean, are we really going to show anything here? If anything, you debug, right line it out so that we can see the 15 or 20 different topics come in.
Well, let's do
But
that too. Let's go ahead
yeah,
and stop this real quick. And we will put in here a console right line message. And then we should be able to see all of them in the console. And then
and this is
in
handy because it's good to understand the cadence of when these topics come in, because they come in like spurts. Every 1 second or so, you get another spurt. And they're not always the same exact topics every spurt. Sometimes you don't have one in there. And
there we go.
yeah.
So when you do console.writeline on Blazor server, you're not going to see it in the browser console. You see it in the literal console. So where'd it go? Okay, something I can't click. Something's hung up my cursor. There we go. All right. I was trying to expand that. There's all of the messages coming in, and notice the Blazor app is still undefined. So what's going on there? We are not seeing anything on the Blazor side of things, even though we're writing to this message. So when we call this, or we passed in this delegate to our service, and these messages are being listened to, the Blazor application doesn't see this as an event that's going to trigger a UI refresh, because it's
Yeah.
not in the normal event lifecycle of a Blazor app. So there's no buttons being clicked. There's no interaction with the page happening. So even though this is pushing messages out and writing them to this variable over and over again, nothing's happening on screen. So we would, if we wanted to see this, and this is probably going to cause a little bit of chaos because they're coming in so quickly. We'll have to figure out what to do with that later. We would have to call state has changed here, and that would tell the UI to update. Let me save that. I don't think
Yeah, I'm
I've
curious how
got.
messed up it's going to be with that many messages.
Yeah, I don't have hot reload on, so we do need to reload the app. And it is going to just probably drive this Blazor page nuts. It's actually not updating at all.
I think it crashed. I think I saw a pop up.
Did it
Second.
break already?
No.
I'm not seeing any messages come out, though. We were seeing messages in the console. There goes
I think
one.
it was a Visual Studio pop up.
Let's try that again. Oh,
there it
yeah,
is.
something did break there. Let's try that again. I accidentally closed the message before we saw it. Current thread.
Yeah, invoke async. Now I remember having to. That's why one of the reasons
Okay.
why we have the await in this task.
So we have to invoke async. State has changed. There we go, like that. And is this do we await this one? Do we await invoke async?
I think so.
Yeah, we just need to change that to async and should be fine. So this
then we
would
can
at
get
least
rid of
cut
that.
down on the chaos, and because of the fact you're waiting for each one to be finished instead of everything fighting to update.
Yeah, you're gonna see it
Not
just
bad.
keep zipping through. It's toggling a lot. Like it looks like this bus voltage state hits a lot. There's something that
Well,
goes
it's
in, and that's the
reading it
last one in the
exactly.
queue.
I would say about 5 or 6 of them are values that you want every 1 second. Some of them you don't. For example, every 5 seconds is okay to do it. But some like charger priority or charger source, which means the battery charger source is either being charged by the solar panels or it's being charged by the grid, is one example you don't need frequent updates on. But the ones that you do want frequent updates on are four values: the power that the house is using, which is the load; the power that the solar panels are generating, which is um, PV power. I wrote these down earlier because it's kind of hard to remember them all. I'll paste it.
Yeah,
into a
there's
chat.
so we've got the topics coming in. What are the values? Like, how do we get a
There's two
value of some?
parts. Exactly,
Okay.
right. So we know our topic. So why don't we do an if statement, because we can't always assume the value is going to be the same type of data, because as the topic changes, the type of data changes. So we can do if message equals um, PV power state. I'll paste the text in right here in a chat. Of course, as we build this out, we won't be doing raw string comparisons. We'll do like a switch statement and we'll have like an enum instead of all the strings. But for now, this is a good way to understand that we're switching on this particular topic. Then when this particular topic happens, okay, I want to do something about this one. Okay, now let's get the value. So to get the value out of this, let's go into the args again and application message again. Now let's look at the properties there that has. You have a few different types: content type, correlation data. There's a lot of different things there depending on what your app is doing. The one we want is the payload segment. Yeah. And what data type is that?
This is a byte array.
It's an array segment. So we actually want a byte array. So do to array. Now we have a byte array. So we have the value that we want. And some people are like, why isn't it a byte array already? Because why isn't it a byte array already? It's more efficient to do it as an array segment and then put together the separate bytes afterwards. So yeah. Now, if we want to see the string, we convert it to ASCII, which is, I have to look that one up again.
Let's see.
Encoding.ASCII get string.
I've got it in
Yes.
some notes here. I'm gonna paste it in so you don't have to watch me type that whole thing. So we're gonna have to bring in a using statement here and get that. And then I called this args. I'll just swap that out for E just to make it more compatible there. And then we'll drop that line because it's included here. So we're
So
gonna
the takeaway though is that application message payload segment is the data for that topic.
that's the
As
byte
the
array that I
topic
had.
changes, that'll be different.
And then there's our decoded payload. And then once we have a decoded payload, what do we do with it?
Let's add it to the UI.
It's a
So
string, so we
yeah.
can just
So maybe we can
let's
put,
see.
we know it's going to be power state, right? For a fact, it's going to be solar panels power, right? Or you can just do the if. There you go.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
topic.
change this up real quick and get message out of the equation there.
Yeah. And
Get rid
then
of
for
that.
message, we can do right after 24. Remember, we only want to update the UI when there's a change for this, right? It's got to be inside. There you go. All right, decoded payload. But let's put it in a string, right? Let's put that inside an interpolated string and say something like PV power equals decoded payload.
So some string interpolation here. Oh, come on. So we have decoded payload. What's the message we want to Prepend
So we know
tools.
that the topic is PV power, or you can do inverter 1 PV power. But I only have one inverter, so that's unnecessary. So just PV power or that is fine, and equals that. Perfect. Now, instead of updating 15 or 16 times, you're only going to update that once a second.
And
And
we're
this
going to
is
get
in
an actual
watts.
value um, instead of like just the topic name.
Yeah, we almost
Swipe
never want
across
to
the
write the
stream.
topic to the UI because your UI is probably going to have a box that says the topic name on top of it. And then you have a chart or a gauge or a needle or something. All right, so solar panels right now are making 143 watts. It must be very cloudy then.
Yeah.
134 watts. It dropped a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit more cloud cover came over or
Yes.
something. Hmm,
They usually
interesting.
generate about 2,000 watts on an average day without, like, not directly overhead. So it's like 1,500 to 2,500 watts. Just 4 panels on this particular inverter.
Nice. So we've
With
got some data coming in. I think is now a good time to kind of do a little bit of UI work here before we start adding a bunch of stuff. We want to
Yeah,
bring in some component
this is
libraries
the
and
perfect
things.
time.
Awesome.
What I
All
would say
right.
though is let's grab 4 topics, right? So you know
Oh,
the
okay.
solar panel power, you know the battery power, you know how much grid power and house power. In the same notes that I sent you for that topic, I have an expanded if else statement. Yep. And that's
So I
exactly the
blew
same on what you
out.
just did.
Hang on one sec. I blew out my await. Let's move that out just for a second. And there we go.
Yeah. Oh,
And
and in
then,
my notes, I have a debug. You can get rid of that. That would just write to the output the rest of the topics that we're not doing anything with. So it's unnecessary here. There we go. Yeah, you don't even need line 21 anymore. Or um, if we were talking about low level optimization, now we start thinking about how many objects are in memory. Do we want to reuse one? Right? We don't need to do that now. We just want the code to be clear and understand what it does. And I don't know. This to me is clear, but how about to you?
I think I would take this eventually and do like a command pattern on it.
Yeah.
So that's something we could do later. It would eliminate all the if messages out of if statements
Hmm.
and put it into something a little bit more configurable where you could just
Yeah.
have a list of your subscribed topics and then actions that you want to take on those or commands that
Yeah.
you want to run when you hit those. And then you can just kind of wire things up ad hoc rather than hard code every statement.
This is very error prone. If you forgot an underscore, it would break. Right. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
So
I don't know, Justin, you want to hop in for me here? This is where Justin can help a lot more with the UI stuff.
Sure, sure. So do we want to go ahead and add Telerik to the project?
yeah, let's do that.
All right. I assume you have the Nougat feed set up.
Yeah, actually, before we do that, let's take a quick pause for a git commit. So we added this application message kind of update or connected to the live server too. Um,
And thanks to us putting that domain in the secrets, it doesn't get included with this commit.
yeah, yeah. So that's only for the people on show that have seen it and
Yeah.
want to maybe tinker with it at home. Let's make sure we don't have any questions too. Doesn't look like we had any specific questions. People just commenting on the case and if statements.
Yep.
And then I'm
Switch.
going to go ahead here too. And just to make things a little bit more manageable, I'm going to do a new branch and just do we're going to use Telerik here. So I'm just going to call this one Telerik UI, just so we have a clean space to work in case we want to roll back something after we install some dependencies and whatnot. So we're going to do manage NuGet packages, Justin.
Yeah.
We're going to do
Search the Telerik Blazor feed and browse. Just type Blazor and then take the latest Blazor UI.
yeah, I'm going to narrow
Pops
this
up.
down by taking the package sources and just looking at the Telerik NuGet feed. Just make it a little bit easier to search. And then we'll say Telerik. And
Dot
Blazor.
Blazor. Yeah. You just get rid of the Telerik part, I think. Yeah.
My package feeds are a little slow today. There it goes. We've got Telerik UI for Blazor. And if you're running a trial, which the trial's free, you'll use the Telerik UI for Blazor .trial dependency. And there's like one other step here where you'll add .trial in. So there is a free trial out there if you want to like check out the bits and play along at home. But I've got the full licensed version here, so I'm going to install the full one. And then we've only got the one project because it's running Blazor server. But if you had like a WebAssembly project and both the server and the client are using the Telerik bits, you'd install on both of them. And then we don't have any like reporting or document processing or anything like that yet. But if we did, we might want to add that as well.
Yeah.
What's the next step, Justin? We've got the dependencies. We've got to
Yeah.
add some things to the
Let's go to
project.
the app .razor file. And in the head there, drop some stuff here to you.
Yeah, just drop it in private chat and I'll paste it in. There's going to be two dependencies in here. We're going to have a JavaScript and a CSS dependency that we'll need. So there's the JavaScript one, and then the CSS one. I like to put this one before any custom styles in case we want to override anything later in our custom styles. So if we want to like change a color or something like that, we might put it in app CSS or one of these isolated style sheets. So I always put it up here at the top. And then I'm going to get rid of this bootstrap dependency here. We really aren't going to need that anymore. We've got all of the tools necessary in the Telerik UI bits, and it's just too much stuff. And then we got the Kendo default theme. There's actually 4 different themes we could choose from and some swatches as well. So we've got the base default theme here. It's going to be kind of a salmon color, which we'll probably want to change later. That salmon color's never been my favorite. I think we make it that just so people check out like some of the theming capabilities we have. And then now that we've got these guys in here, we're gonna go over to
Yeah, let's go
let's
to
see.
the
Is it
imports.
imports?
Yeah, let's
And then
add
we're
a
gonna
few using statements.
drop those in here. So we're gonna use Telerik Blazor components, SVG icons, and possibly font icons.
We could probably
And
get rid of the font icons if we're
probably,
gonna
yeah, I was
use
gonna
those.
say,
Yeah,
I don't think we absolutely need that because we're gonna probably use the newer SVG icons.
yeah.
That other one's probably just there for compatibility purposes.
And you just got one more step. You go to the your program.cs file and let's add the builder.services.add Telerik Blazor.
There we go. And that should be all the steps. And now we could go back to the app
We've got to
and
go to
make sure
the
it works, right?
layout page
Oh yeah, there's one more
and
step.
add the root component.
You're right. There's
Yeah,
one more
just
step,
wrap all that in the Telerik root component.
and I always mentally like space out on that one. I forget
Yeah.
to add it. What does that do?
So this, all of the content um, for the app is gonna come through this layout
So
page now, and so I'm not sure technically what's happening here, but they
you've
can.
got some state providers in there. You've got also some JavaScript interrupt bits that use this as a kind of a beacon or a locator. So if you have a pop-up, if I were to take this Telerik root component and shove it somewhere higher up in the hierarchy, the pop-ups wouldn't show in the correct location. So this kind of gives the page an anchor and tells it, okay, I know the absolute boundaries of the browser now because this is
Yeah.
at the root of your
And you
application.
could also, if you don't want, Telerik access or to use Telerik components everywhere in the app, you could do, this in a single Razor file, Razor
Mhm.
page, and just have that one page use Telerik components.
Yeah, you could cascade these layouts as well. So you could have a Telerik layout and then a regular main layout. And then in your page here, you could say layout. And then, if it was just the Telerik one, you could say Telerik. Or if it was some other layout, you say main layout and so on. So you can, I don't remember if those are quotes or not, but that's the gist of it. Use the layout parameter there. You could change the layouts if you'd want to. So we should be good to go here. We can drop in like
Ready?
a button or something.
Yeah.
I think we
It's
might
going to
need to
be,
add the SVG the icons package. Is that
oh,
listed as a dependency in the Telerik package?
I
Yeah.
think it's
Okay.
a
Because it's
subdependency.
only on NuGet.org. It doesn't come from the Telerik NuGet server, which
Hmm.
is the one edge case.
I've never
I
had to
haven't
add
noticed
it.
having to do that. Yeah.
Let's give this a run and see if our button is themed. If we have a themed button, we know we've done a good job. Oh, there's a build error. I fat fingered something when I pasted this in. So there's a missing. Where's it?
Probably
I
my
think.
fault because I wrote this in Notepad.
Where's the missing? It says there's a missing semicolon, but I don't understand where.
Did it tell us what line?
Right.
No, it's not telling me. Let's try that build again. Line
35.
35.
35.
I took the if off of there because there's no other else at the end.
Maybe there's an extra bracket. No.
Okay, that's a weird one. Like, where would there be? So it's if else. There's no logic there. So what are we? I don't get it. Just temporarily, I'm just going to take this out. We'll fix it in a minute. Let's test the bits that we were after. All right, so it looks kind of trashy because I took out the Blazor or the what's it called?
Bootstrap.
Bootstrap theme. So it kind of fell apart a little bit, and then there's just the isolated CSS there, but our Hello World button looks like it's themed correctly. And we can even double check this even more by going to the button again and setting a color on it. Say theme color, primary. I'm going to use the text there for now. There's another way to get the colors that's not magic string, but it's a lot more to type. Let's just check this out and see if it themes, and it does. Cool. So I'm going to jump in for a minute, and you can help me along the way, Justin.
Sure.
Let's replace this shell with something a little bit more fancy. So let's see here. Let me get my browser closed. There we go. Let's go to demos, Telerik UI for Blazor. This Blazing Coffee Warehouse is something that's got kind of a nice UI to it, where we've got this tray on the side, and then we can kind of navigate with the menu over here. I like this setup. It's not too difficult to create one of these. So what we need is, if we go back to the demos page, there is a drawer component.
So yeah,
And it's going to
drawer.
be under layout. Isn't it under layout?
It's on the left under
Or is it
navigation.
navigation?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. And we can use this component here. And the way this one works, let's see, there's a simplified version of this somewhere. Is it in mini view, I think? Yeah, this one I think is a little bit more simplified. So we can copy this out.
I like for the most simple versions to just go to the documentation overview of each component. And it's
Is
usually
there
like the most simplified version. So if you get out of the demos and go to documentation.
There we go. Drawer homepage. Oh no, that's not the one. There's links at the bottom here. I'm just trying to be quick. There we go.
There you go. You find that little one right there in the preview. It's like normally.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that'll work too. So grab that out. And then do we have some code here that we let's actually go over to the counter page. We'll just drop it in here for now. Oh, actually, wait, I'm doing this in the wrong place. We want to go to the main layout. Inside of the main layout, we'll paste this in, then we'll just kind of piecemeal it back together. So we want to keep the Blazor error UI. This is the little banner that floats at the bottom of the screen when there's an issue with an exception thrown in the app. So we don't want to delete that. We're not going to need this sidebar page, main, any of this stuff. This can go away. So delete that out of there. And then we've got our drawer. This needs to go up inside of the Telerik root component. And then the drawer has a toggle for the drawer to open and close. The drawer content is where we want to focus our attention and put that body back in there. So the body is where the meat of the template is going to render. So now we've got the drawer content, that's in the body, and then you'll see down here we've got, we can probably drop this namespace out of here. We've got a Telerik drawer reference. That's going to let us get a reference to open and close, toggle the drawer. And we've got an IEnumerable of drawer items, and this gives us our menu items. The drawer item itself is defined in this class here. Now there's some magical bindings in here that the drawer item gets, because this isn't a Telerik drawer item, right? This is just a generic class inside of our application. But there's certain fields that will bind inside of the UI automatically. So like text and icon, I don't need to do any extra work. But if we run this, and I think we can run any page because this is in our root now, our main layout. We toggle the drawer. You could see like we've got icons in the text. We didn't have to like do any work with that. They just show up. They just work. It knows that those fields correlate to these UI elements. I think that's pretty cool. So we're getting there. We're one step of the way there. We can also in here add, oh, sorry, we got to go down here. We need to add a URL field. If we add a URL field, we say get set on this one. I like to default these just so the compiler stops nagging us that they're not nullable.
Yeah.
We'll just set them to empty strings. Oh, that one can't be empty. Icon, we can just let that be a nullable icon. Or the compiler will stop yelling at us now. And now if we go into the URL and we say counter, and we do URL equals counter, and then fetch data slash. Is it still fetch data in this example, or is it weather? It's weather in this one. Weather.
Just gonna ask, how
changes
does it
to-
know the ID that you're using in the query string? Is that defined at the top of the Razor page?
Yeah, so this will actually hook into, it's just going to route to this. So it doesn't even really need to know anything. But the component, the drawer component, when it's binding these things, like you saw how it automatically knew, like text is going to be like the text on the button in the drawer. The icon goes next to the text. It's going to see URL, and it's going to just make an anchor, like a navigation. So it doesn't really need to know anything. And when we refresh the app, we should be able to navigate with this now. So I'm going to toggle that drawer open. I need to set mini mode on as well. We can go home, counter, weather, and we're navigating. So no code written.
Nice.
We just needed to add the field.
Yeah, that's explained a little bit in the navigation portion of the drawer documentation. The URL.
Speaking of drawer documentation, this is in there as well. I like to set my mini mode to true. And before I save that, I'll show you what I'm doing with it. So we've got the drawers vanished, right? You got to hit toggle drawer to see it. When I turn mini mode on, watch how the UI changes here. It's going to look a little bit different. I think it's a little more streamlined. I'm going to stop this from running too and see if I can do some hot reloading so I don't have to keep bouncing back and forth. There we go. So now I've got some icons here, and if I toggle the drawer, it expands the text, but when I hide it, the icons are still available, so I can still navigate around like that. So that's pretty nice. I typically don't like just throwing a weird button at the top of the page here. So we're going to go back over to the demos page and see what else we have that would make a nice title bar across the top of the screen. Let's go over to, I keep closing the window out. Why does it's got to throw a message up to let me know I'm displaying or sharing my screen, and it's kind of annoying. So if you keep seeing me click on the bottom, it's locking up my UI every time it does it. So we'll go back to demos, and then we've got under layout this app bar. And the app bar is really nice.
That's cool.
It's got some positioning features. It can be sticky and all of that sort of thing. The simple version of it, though, we can just come into view source here and just grab a little bit of this. And for the most part, we can take that button off the top here and replace it with the app bar. And I just need to put a closing tag in now. And we don't need to set the theme color here yet. Trying to remember what the default is. We'll just say primary for now. And then the button, fill mode flat. It's already got the menu icon. It just needs the on-click event back that got deleted out of there. And that was to call the drawer reference and tell it to toggle. Actually, we need to throw in a couple of these first. do a lambda expression, my keyboard, and then say drawer reference dot, and then you can see there's several methods that we have in here. We've got, whoa.
I like when there's a single method that does toggling instead of always having to do equals true or equals
Yeah,
false.
absolutely. We've got toggle async in here, so we'll call toggle async. If you hear weird noises, it sounds like a seal in the background. That's the dog. Nobody's home, so she's just crying for no reason. It's like, I'm not good enough for her. Like, she can't come over here and watch the show. She's got to cry that nobody else is home. You can see where the loyalty lies. And then I may have to refresh the app anyway because, oh my God, this is so annoying. I don't know if that's a Edge feature or it's the StreamYard or what, but because I'm sharing, it keeps locking up my UI and displaying this stupid little thing at the bottom. There we go. There's our toolbar at the top. And yeah, I'm zoomed in quite a bit. So that's what it looks like normal. So we're looking a little better. And then we just double check this here to make sure that our app bar closes and opens.
There's something I should mention here is that as you develop this app, you should be conscientious of when you're hooked into the WebSocket to the broker. So whenever the app launches, because we have it in initialized async, it's going to set up that HTTP connection every single time. So maybe we want to put it behind a toggle switch for now as we're fleshing out the UI, or comment it out. You know what I mean? So if you go back to Home Razor, every single time we launch it, it's creating a new socket and subscribing to topics.
Yeah, we'll comment it out for now, and then we'll put something in like, some
this
kind
is
of
an expensive operation,
feature.
programmatically speaking. So, and it also helps you think about this as you're building out your different views, because if the context between one view has a different binding data context than another view, you might end up with two different instances of the service, and we'll make sure that you're only connected once.
All right, so we're able to navigate, and we got the top bar here. It looks good. We can put other stuff up here. By the way, that toggle button you're talking about might be able to go up here, and so on. And then there's some spacing issues in here, obviously. So we probably want to work on that. And then let's see how we're doing on time. It is
exactly on time.
Exactly on time. Do you guys have a second to fix these? It'll probably take maybe 5 minutes at the most.
Yeah.
Or do you have a hard out? All right.
No,
so
let's wrap it up properly.
This spacing on the outside edge, if we look at the browser, that is coming out of the body, and these are the default things that are usually overridden. You've usually got some kind of like a normalizer or something that's included in Bootstrap and other frameworks. I deleted Bootstrap, so that's gone now. So you'll see if I pull this across under computed styles, you can see the margin here. There's an 8-pixel margin that's just on the body by default from the browser. So we just need to wipe that out. And there's some helper classes that we can use. We could just hard code it in CSS. One of the things that we could probably use under app.razor, this is stuff that's included in the Kendo UI framework. So there's some helper classes, and it's going to be K for Kendo, and then it's going to be M0. And this is similar to maybe a Tailwind or something like that, where there's just some shorthand things to help you get rid of or set margins without having to go into CSS and type it out. And then hot reload did not kick in. I don't have it on. There we go. It always helps if you have it on. So we'll hit save file there, and it still didn't work. This is why they call it lukewarm reload in the .NET community. because it did not do anything there. I'll go ahead and reboot the app, and there you go. See, that went away. That already looks a million times better.
Right.
Imagine, not imagine, but it's amazing what a little bit of white space can do to help or hurt your application. And then we've got another section here where the content of the drawer is being drawn, and then there's no white space. So it's just kind of butting up against the control panel, which is just kind of gross. So there's a couple ways we can fix this as well. One of the easiest ways to do it, and we can refactor it out later, is just to come back into main layout here and use another one of those little helper classes, and we'll just wrap the body of the drawer content in a div. You can do it without the div, but it takes a lot more code. We have to go into CSS and create classes and stuff. So we'll just do it this way for now. We'll say class equals K. Let's see if I can remember how to do this off the top of my head. There's KM, is it 4? It's going to set the margins to 4 on this, or 4 units, which is like 2 EM or something like that. There's a whole documented section of what these are. And I use them to prototype, and then I kind of ditch them when I'm done, which is what I think people are supposed
That's convenient
to do
though, so you
with
know it's
Tailwind.
KM and then the value you want for your padding.
It's really good for people that are not CSS folks, except hot reload again is like failing or something. Jeez, this is so annoying. I have to click that every time. Is there a browser that's not being shown or something? There's something interfering with my browser. But let's try to just reload the app and see if it picks up. I'm not seeing it jump back up here. It's like hot reload is stuck or something in the background. Oh, wow. Okay, there's a... All right, that was fun. Let's try to rebuild. Something's cached somewhere and it's blowing up just really bad. Let's try closing that browser window out, which I just lost all of my screen share.
Yeah.
Yeah, this Visual Studio instance has gone awry. Let me kill all this real quick. And then let's try sharing the screen again. And then I will let y'all go. There we go. And then let's try running it again. There we go.
Nice.
Hey, it worked.
There, now it's got some space in there. So there's a nice white space around this now. So that now it looks like a real app. Now it looks good. And we can put some nice components in here and display some charts and whatever we want next, because now we have
Can
the
we
full...
change the button color of the drawer? Is that a capability? So you know how you have that top button? Yeah, maybe make it darker or lighter so it doesn't match the header.
We could do... we could either change the header or we could change the drawer. We could go with color. Let's see, Telerik drawer, theme. Oh, it doesn't have a theme color setting? Where's the theme color setting for the drawer? You can change anything anywhere. I'm just trying to think what the easy one is.
I'm just shooting off.
Let's go with the
head.
title bar because I know where that one's at, and then I'll look the other one up later.
Yeah.
We can do this at Telerik. Blazor dot theme constraints. This is going to be the app bar, and then you'll see all the options we have. I did it the long way, so you could see all the options that are available. So we've got base, dark, error, info, inverse, light, primary, secondary, success, tertiary, and warning. Let's go ahead with tertiary just for...
Yeah, that's much better because then you don't have to hard code the color, but you know it still stays within the constraints of the theme.
Yep, and if for some reason, say we do like a breaking change, and you're using these, then the app won't break. But if you put, you know, a hard-coded string in there
Yeah.
and we do some kind of breaking change, that will break. So now let's see if we did not hot reload. Let's try running it again. There we go. So now we've got a
Nice.
different color up there.
Like that blue.
Yeah. So we can swap colors out all we want with Theme Builder. We can do all that after we get some more work done on the app.
Yeah.
But it looks
Well, we got the connection
looks a
working.
lot
That
better.
was the number one goal today, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're getting data now. So
let's
I
go
guess
ahead
next
and-
week, you guys can start throwing in some charts maybe or gauges with the value of the data that's coming in. We know it's in watts. It's a numeric value. You know, play around with that next week.
Cool.
All right. Good deal. So we've got everything in place for next week, and we've got all the tools now to build out a nice dashboard. So thank you, Justin and Lance. Take care, everybody.
Bye, folks.